Welcome, everybody, to another edition of King's Court. I'm Andy. I'm your host today. Along with me, I have Desmond. What's going on?
Good afternoon, folks. What a great NBA day we had. Well, great NBA evening we had last night, and it's only going to get better from here.
Also, we have Brandon. Brandon, how's it going, man? He wasn't here last week, but he's live and in color today, folks.
It's been about 3 weeks. I missed you guys. You guys are awesome. Love writing for Pass the Pill and Sports Kings. And, yeah, it was good. It was a good night for the NBA Draft Lottery. Really excited for the show.
So we're without Michael Prauser and Frank Santos today. They'll be missed. We got a good show for you. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit of the NBA Draft Lottery that went on last night, as you all know, or by the time you watch the show, it could have been the day before. Either way, it was Tuesday night. We're going to talk some of our favorite guys in this draft. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers and their karma, if you see my hashtag here. I don't know what's going on. It's like they're still receiving benefits for LeBron James leaving. We have the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers series. The Heat tied that up on Tuesday night as well after the draft lottery, so we're 1-1 neck and neck. And then last but not least, we're going to give you some Kevin Love chatter. I know it's been a hot topic among the NBA world lately. So let's jump right into this draft lottery thing, and let's get your initial reactions, guys. We'll go with you first, Desmond. What did you think of the draft lottery? Because besides the Cleveland thing, everything else was kind of uniform.
Well, my first reaction, you guys can follow me on Twitter right there if you can see it, D3SP4. But Andy, you follow me. Both of you follow me, guys. And I literally just wrote in all caps, I can't believe Cleveland got the first pick again. Because it was just one of those things. You have a 1.7% chance of getting the first pick, and you do. It's like they had the ultimate bad luck in losing LeBron James, and then recently they had the ultimate good luck of getting first picks like they're kids at a candy store. But the thing is, the Kyrie pick worked out for them. Anthony Bennett pick, but now I don't know if anyone saw the reaction of the Cavs GM, the way he embraced Dr. J, and Dr. J gave him this look like, I hate you, because we all know who's going number one in this draft class. Whether you agree or not, Andrew Wiggins is probably the consensus pick coming off the board for Cleveland. But just my initial reaction, this is a team that is going through turmoil. This is a team that has a young point guard who, if they don't get things right, he may follow in the footsteps of the greatest player to come out of Cleveland, who we will not name, just number 6. But, he might follow in his footsteps and bounce if things are not going right. I mean, Kyrie Irving has dealt with injury issues his whole career. I mean, he's had injury issues going back into his senior year of high school, in Duke, his quick collegiate career, and now in the NBA. But he's been able to shine through that. So with that said, Cleveland gets a second chance at regaining some footing. Let's see what they can do with the pick. I didn't really feel bad for Milwaukee or Philadelphia because, let's say you don't get an Andrew Wiggins, or let's say Andrew Wiggins is not the first pick. You still get a great player out of that top 3. You're either going to get a Joel Embiid, and Andrew Wiggins, or a Jabari Parker. Either way, it's going to end up like that in the top 3. If I'm Milwaukee, who had what's her name, Mallory Eden, the daughter of the co-owner, she went from 100 followers to I don't know where that's coming from. But I don't know if that was me or you guys. But
that sounded like a rocket ship passing through somebody's living room.
Yeah, that was me, actually. I don't know what happened.
I think the Cleveland Cavaliers were trying to visit Brandon. But with that said, I don't think it was a bad night to be 2 or 3. I mean, Lakers and Celtics fans were up in arms because the conspiracy and stuff like that. You guys have the 2 most winningest franchises in NBA history. I think you can deal with not having the number 1 overall.
And let me cut you off for 1 second because I have to say something about the Lakers and the Celtics.
Yeah.
I was saying before the draft, if either the Lakers or Celtics bumped into that one spot, I was done. Like, I was walking away.
Like, you guys have the two most winningest franchises in NBA history.
Thank you.
You have more titles than any other franchises other than each other. So it's like you didn't need the number one pick. First of all, the Lakers have Kobe coming back, and I don't care what anyone says. I'm not the biggest Kobe fan, but I have respect. He's one of my favorite athletes. When he comes back, he's going to be respectable at the very least. He's going to put up at least 20 points per game. But that's probably even too low for Kobe in that sense. So if you're the Celtics, I like what they have in regards to Rondo can be a very good leader. They're slated by Chad Ford to take Aaron Gordon of Arizona. That's a pretty good pick if I'm the Celtics, especially when you pair him up with a guy like Rondo who can get him the ball, slash into the basket, pick and rolls. It could be like their own little mini version of the Los Angeles Clippers if they add the right pieces around them. Because Aaron Gordon reminds me of a slightly thinner Blake Griffin, which is a compliment now because Blake Griffin has a complete game, or he's working on his complete game under Doc Rivers. So with all that said, I thought it was a good night for Cleveland, but it was also a great night for Milwaukee and Philadelphia because no matter what happens, you are going to get top 3 talent. You're going to get the 7-footer who we discussed this before. I really like Joel Embiid if those back issues clear up. And you're going to get a guy who I felt was the number 1 prospect in this class, Jabari Parker, who is the most complete and solid and polished player in this draft.
I mean, you better probably go give Dr. J a call. Julius Erving looked a little upset last night.
He did.
Let me get your reaction, Brandon. What was your overall take of this thing last night?
Well, first off, Desmond, you said it absolutely perfect, and I think you said something like it's not a bad thing to have the second and third pick, that's awesome. And also, I was looking it up while you were giving your opinion. Philadelphia also has the 10th pick.
Yes, they do.
That's just as great. Real quick, I was really excited to see my Utah Jazz get the 5th pick. For those of you who don't know, I'm originally from Utah.
Yes, you are.
Boston and LA going 6 and 7 is, I don't know, something's up with that right there. And
that's even too high.
I know, right? And hey, I mean, my Phoenix Suns winning 48 games and getting the 14th pick. That's where those trades in the past came up well for them. I don't really want to talk about Cleveland too much because you already said everything there is to be said. The whole Twitter universe has said everything that's been said about Cleveland. I guess you could say that the poor struck rich for right now. Really excited to see these other teams, and I just hope that some of these teams just make smart decisions. Unlike Cleveland last year, Cleveland could have been really good this year. I've said it on past shows. Anthony Bennett could have been really good this year, so they really have to focus on who they're picking up.
Yeah, for me personally, I'm a Magic fan, so I kind of had a lot of stock in this draft, being that Orlando had 2 lottery picks coming. One was projected top 3. Thanks, Cleveland, for ruining that. But honestly, and I was kind of alluding to this before the show, I almost feel like I like Orlando dropping to 4. I guess that's where I'm going to start my reaction as a Magic fan. I feel like, for me, I really would like to have a guy like Dante Exum in Orlando, and I feel like the top 3 are Parker, Wiggins, and Embiid, like Desmond was saying, and I feel like maybe Orlando sitting at 4, those 3 guys get cleared out. I think it's Parker and Wiggins 1 and 2. I don't know who goes where. I think those 2 are 1 and 2, and I really hope. I hope a team like Philadelphia would pull the trigger on Joel Embiid because he scares me, honestly. I feel like
he is a terror.
But it's not just the back that scares me. I feel like these big guys are either Dwight Howard or they're Greg Oden. I don't think there's a middle ground.
And it's funny. I'm sorry to cut you off, Andy, but just to redefine my point, I said if you have picks 2 to 3, it's not a bad night. You just mentioned something. If you're 4 to 10, it's still not bad. There are so many good players. Talk about the Orlando Magic. You get a Dante Exum, who's a 6'6" point guard with the potential to be a really good knockdown shooter in this league. If you're the Magic, you pair that up with Victor Oladipo,
Right.
You have a very
And he's from Europe. Some of those European players are phenomenal.
So you have
Well, then you also, if you're a team like Orlando, you have that 12 pick to fall back on too, kind of like 76ers have that 3 pick and then that 10 pick. My point overall is there's a lot of talented players. I mean, even the Utah Jazz at 5 are in good shape. There's going to be a guy like maybe an Exum is available there. I know they just drafted Trey Burke, but a lot of teams are drafting on value. Your Julius Randles, guys like that. Let's because I think we've really said all we can say as far as reactions go. Let's kind of dig into. I wanted to go our top 5. If you had a board, like anybody else, like Jay Billis was showing his board last night.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about who the top 5 players available. I'm not talking, don't try to pair them with the team. Just your top 5 players available. Brandon, who do you have 1 through 5?
Well,
he's unprepared for class, folks.
Are you asking like it doesn't matter what team they go to? You're just saying
your top 5 available players.
All right, well, I'm going to sort of cop out here. I'm obviously going to go with Andrew Wiggins. At first, I was like, this kid's overhyped.
So that's your number 1?
That's my number 1.
Okay.
Then I actually watched this kid. And another thing, too, was I wasn't really sure who Dante Exum was. You guys know me. I'm not the biggest college guy. But lately I've been watching a lot of, just NBA stuff, NBA Draft Combine, just all this stuff focusing on this class. Dante Exum's really good. I'm going to put him at number 2. Julius Randle, Jabari Parker, and this might sound crazy because I actually watched him in the tournament all year. I'm going to say Aaron Gordon. I want to throw Joel Embiid in there, and he could be really good. And this sounds like a typical thing to say, but that's your back. I mean,
you only got one of those.
Yeah, right. So, I don't know if I really trust him. Would I want to draft him to my team? Mm-mm.
All right,
I don't know. If he were healthy.
Let's get Desmond's top 5. Just top 5 available on the board, 1 through 5.
Well, first things first, the number 1 overall on my board has been Jabari Parker from the start. Mm-hmm. Yes, he has to work on his defense, but offensively he is already so polished and so solid. His leadership, the fact that he's also underrated in the athletic department. He's 6'8" himself, and he's a thick guy. I mean, he's
a little bit bigger.
He's more prepared to slash and take punishment in the hole than Andrew Wiggins is, just because he's a little bit he has more frame on him.
He's a lot more frame.
Yeah. With that said, Wiggins is my number 2. The athleticism, Andy, you've heard me say this in past shows. I believe Andrew Wiggins is already a better perimeter defender than most NBA players are right now. Definitely a better perimeter defender than James Harden. And James Harden is probably the best shooting guard we have in the league right now. Even though I disagree with that as well, I think a good, healthy Dwayne Wade will give Harden a run for his money, but that's a different story. So Andrew Wiggins, definitely number 2. His athleticism, his perimeter defense, when he's on offensively, it's very little you can do to counter that. We saw I believe it was his 40-something point game against Florida, was it this year in college? And he was just phenomenal. Number 3, I'm going to go with Joel Embiid. That's been my top 3 from the start. The back does worry me, Brandon. I agree with you, but I feel like he's so young. Looking into his past is not really littered with injury red flags.
Right.
This guy is a shot blocking extraordinaire. I mean, if he gets into the right hands of NBA coaching, he can be a terror in the NBA. And he's not the beefiest guy, in regards to frame, but all of these young guys are going to get bigger to some extent. Some guys are not going to have to. If you're Dante Exum or Nick Stauskas from Michigan, you don't have to get, ripped. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in the paint, you got to add on some muscle. He reminds me of a taller Serge Ibaka because he does have a 12 to 10-foot jump shot that could work in the NBA if he works on it himself. So I love Joel Embiid's game. He's number 3 for me. And
his wingspan is like 7'5", 7'6", too.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But this guy has potential off the charts, especially if that back clears up. With that said, number 4, I'm gonna give it to Dante Exum. I love his game. Just checking him out, his highlights, his game tape, looking at what all the scouts have to say. And the scouts are not right all the time, but I'm just going off the eye test.
Right.
Dante Exum is one of the more sensational prospects coming from overseas. This guy can play now. And like I said, you pair him up with a young guard or a veteran guard, they're going to show him the ropes and around the NBA, and maybe he'll have to sit for a while, but all of these guys are projects. But Dante Exum, just a pure point guard play from him. He's a point guard first, and that's what I love.
Yes.
He's 6'6". He does have the athletic ability. Yes, he slashes, but he looks to create. So when you get a guy that looks to create, like a Michael Carter-Williams, already so young, he can do some damage in this league. And in fifth, I'm going to have to go with Julius Randle. I wanted to go with Aaron Gordon, but Julius Randle's game, if he can have a complete game, scoring with his left hand, scoring with his right hand, being ambidextrous, using the glass, he's going to be a terror in the NBA as well. He is the most post-ready of this class, especially in the top 5. Yeah.
Okay, so let me give mine, and I'm gonna go real quick with mine just because I think you guys, we have a lot of the same prospects. Obviously, it's the top 5. Mine may be a little bit of a different order. I'm just gonna give a quick. I'm gonna go with a quick keyword or two for each guy. My number 1 is Andrew Wiggins. Always has been. I've never really swayed from that. I just feel like his NBA. I feel like when I look at him and Jabari Parker, because those are the two main guys for me. When I look at the two of them, I feel like Andrew Wiggins reminds people more of a LeBron James type player. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying they're the same player, but I'm saying in this draft, if you had to pick somebody who reminded you of LeBron James, it's Andrew Wiggins. It's the athleticism. It's the height.
Yeah.
Not Julius Randle's, but Jabari Parker reminds me more of a Carmelo Anthony player, which is great. Excellent. He's got that build. The jumper's not quite as good. So I have Wiggins. I have Jabari Parker's my number 2. Jabari Parker is going to be a great pro. I think he's well-rounded. He's ready already. He reminds me of Carmelo Anthony in a few ways. My number 3 is actually Dante Exum. I feel like the big point guard is in style right now. Michael Carter-Williams, 6'7" last year, kind of took the league by storm. But as you alluded to, Desmond, he's a pass-first guy. He's got a decent jumper. I think, to me, for being an Orlando fan, I watched tape, and I feel like he reminds me a little bit of Penny Hardaway. My number 4
That's a great comparison.
is Joel Embiid. I feel like he's, despite my being scared a little bit, I think he's too big. I like the Serge Ibaka thing. And number 5 on my list is also Julius Randle, bully ball professional.
Yes.
He takes guys off the dribble at the top of the key. I don't expect him to be able to do that quite as well in the NBA because we know everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. But he's too talented. He's already NBA ready as far as rebounding goes. It's going to take him a little while, I think, to polish up his offensive game. Because if you notice when he scores a lot in college, it's like bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin-esque kind of stuff, what he did early on. Not quite as athletic, but he does have a special skill set that I think a lot of power forwards don't possess.
Right.
So now let's flip the script a little bit, and let's give a real quick analysis of who we think our top 3 are for Cleveland. Like, what top 3 guys fit Cleveland's needs more than anybody else? A lot of this will probably be similar to what we just said, but let's go to you first, Desmond. Who do you think Cleveland's top 3 on their board should be? It's probably the same 3 guys.
Being totally honest, Andrew Wiggins, and Andrew Wiggins.
I'll accept that answer.
It just doesn't get any simpler than that. You have the number 1 overall pick. You can't mess this up. We talked about this. You lost LeBron James. Andy, you made a great point.
And you lost your first-round pick last year.
Yes, you did. You lose the greatest player to ever play for your team. And somehow, some way, with a 1.7% chance, you get the number 1 overall pick in a draft where there's a kid, like Andy you just mentioned, who reminds you of LeBron James. I'm not saying he's going to be LeBron James, but the fact of the matter is, it's a very slim chance. It's probably a 1.7% chance, just like the chance they had to get the number 1 overall pick, that Andrew Wiggins is going to be a bust. The rest of that large percentage, he's going to be a star in this league. You do not pick Andrew, and I love Jabari Parker's game, but Andrew Wiggins just fits. Perimeter defensively, He can slash. He can create. Help Kyrie in the sense that he won't be alone on the perimeter. He won't be doubled as much. With that said, you got to get Kyrie and Andrew Wiggins. It's just that simple. He's the first 3 picks on the board for Cleveland. There should be no one else on their board right now.
All right, Brandon, who are your top 3 picks?
Honestly, I'm gonna
Dylon.
Here's why. I mean, Desmond just said it, but I was thinking while he was talking, if the Cleveland Cavaliers had like the 5th or 6th pick, I could totally see them going with somebody else because of this fact. In a way, okay, yeah, sure, they were supposed to be good this year and they weren't. In a way, their roster is set. They kind of have a center. There's rumors that they might get rid of Tristan Thompson. They're, power forward and center, they're filled at. They already have a point guard. It's really those 2 slots out of shooting guard and shooting forward that they really need. So I'm going to say Andrew Wiggins. Because, again, if they had like the 5th or 6th pick, that would make sense. Like, yeah, maybe they would go with somebody different. And if they didn't have Kyrie, this might sound crazy, but I would say Dante Exum or another good point guard in the draft. And real quick, I have one thing to say. I should have said it earlier. There's a lot of players in this draft, especially me. I've been doing my homework. That, yeah, these players might go like late 1st round or 2nd round, but these players are going to be around for a long time.
There are. I agree with that.
And Andy, just to make a quick point, we mentioned him in the last show. We showed him praise for what he did to KD. Defensively, Andrew Wiggins reminds me of it just slipped the grindfather. So
Tony Allen? Okay.
Yeah, so the Cleveland Cavaliers don't have an identity on the perimeter in regards to defense. You bring Andrew Wiggins in, and he just continues to improve. It's a boundless potential that you have on the perimeter alongside Kyrie.
Yeah, let that defense speak for you early on. Develop your offense. I think he has some Paul George in him. Honestly, I think the build is similar.
Comparison.
Maybe if he gets, and obviously that's not my words. You've heard that probably a million times from everybody. From ESPN to Yahoo. But for me, I'll open this up a little bit because you guys. I think it's Andrew Wiggins too. I do for all the things you guys have said. The other one for me though, the second one would really be Joel Embiid, just because I think they really need a big guy there. They need a future big dude. I almost kept thinking in my mind maybe that they say. Because I don't really have any love for Kyrie Irving, so I'll just get that out of the way first and foremost. What if they say to like Milwaukee, they say, you give us a Brandon Knight and your 2nd overall pick, and we'll send you Kyrie Irving. And then what if they did something where they drafted Wiggins and Dante Exum, or they drafted Wiggins and Joel Embiid, and they said, we're going to play with Brandon Knight as a point guard, or something to that effect. Right. Something where they could get, or they, I don't think it's as likely with somebody like Philadelphia, because I think they really like Michael Carter-Williams, so I couldn't see them making that trade. But things happen in the NBA draft. We've seen this. We saw Cleveland with Kyrie and Tristan Thompson a few years ago, where they had 2 picks, early on. So I do, and then I don't really have a third. I guess my third is going to default and be Andrew Wiggins a second time. So I'll kind of fall in with you guys.
Andy, I don't mean to cut you off here, but that was kind of what I was saying about, Cleveland really doesn't have a center, and there's rumors that they might get rid of Tristan Thompson. So I'm going to agree with you on that.
And Andy, I agree with you. If the community wasn't so invested in Kyrie Irving, who knows? They may be looking for a trade. I mean, it sounds blasphemous, but we've seen it in the NBA before. Not to say that I would agree with it, but
they could be talking about it right now.
Go out there and trade Kyrie for Kevin Love.
Yeah.
But let's move away from this draft stuff a little bit. I mean, I know everybody's probably been beat to death the last 24 hours, or not even 24 hours, the last 12 hours or so with the combine stuff, or not the combine stuff, the draft lottery stuff. Let's jump into the thing that happened after the draft lottery, and that was Game 2, the Eastern Conference Finals. Miami Heat, Game 2, going into Indiana again. Got to get this win before they go home, and they pull it off. Close game. Kind of seemed more like a Pacers-driven game to me as far as scoring went, as when I thought Game 1 seemed kind of more like a Miami game. Yeah. How big was this win for Miami now? Game 2, and being that, like what I just mentioned, being that it was a a lower scoring type of game. I mean, it wasn't terribly low. We didn't see 81-79 or something like that, but it was low for the Miami Heat for what I think they're capable of doing. But they seem to play they seem to play a lot better brand of Miami Heat type, getting in the lanes, things of that nature, and they shut them down with their defense because, let's be frank, there was no defense being played by the Miami Heat in Game 1. We'll go to you first, Brandon. What are your thoughts on Game 2? And we'll go to the next part after we all answer this question. Your thoughts on Game 2?
Well, not only is it Game 2, but it's round 2 of last year and then previously. I really liked this game. I watched most of it, and I watched Game 1 as well. This was basically a game of runs in a way because I think it was Indiana that was leading at halftime, and there was like a 4-point, 8-point deficit or something in between there. I really liked this game. I love this series. It's going to be interesting how it plays out, and I could be wrong on this. I'm probably totally butchering it, but I think some people in the past have said that like Game 3 is like the most important, or the NBA playoffs begin in Game 3 or something.
Game 3 is always that important game.
Yeah, so good job for Miami to do this. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's been a lot of series that I thought were going to be blowouts, and they ended up in Game 7s, but this is the Eastern Conference Finals, and this is the back-to-back Miami Heat, NBA champions, so we'll see if the Pacers can hang on to whatever rope they have left.
Desmond, your thoughts from last night?
Last night was just total survival of the fittest in regards to this series. The fact that the Heat won this Game 2 in Indiana when, and I tweeted this, they were not supposed to win that game. and both teams were playing sloppy basketball. I was seeing some passes that were just the most sloppy passes I've ever seen in my lifetime in regards to playoff basketball. I mean, both teams did not look like they did not have a clue what was going on that night. The only one that really looked sensational was Lance Stevenson, and that is why I thought the Heat were going to lose that game, because LeBron James was nowhere to be found, despite Dwayne Wade early on being that go-to guy, being that spark, as well as Norris Cole coming off the bench, and Chris Anderson providing that intensity in the paint, especially against Roy Hibbert. Lance Stevenson, every time you turn around, he was doing something crazy. I mean, the buzzer beater tip-in at the half, the deep three-point shot on Norris Cole, the salacious dunk he had just going right through the Heat defense. So Lance Stevenson made himself a lot of money last night. He could have 3 bad games after this. He's still going to make a lot of money because there's going to be a team out there that's going to like the swag, the Brooklyn swag that he brings to the court, that that just aggressive play, and they're going to pay him big money. But that run that LeBron James and Dwayne Wade went on in the fourth quarter, 9 of 12, LeBron scoring 12, Dwayne scoring 10, that's why they came together. I mean, we all
the backdoor pass too at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was signature.
Beautiful.
It was signature LeBron and Wade, and a lot of people got on them for joining up at the beginning. If you're wondering why, that's why. Because that moment, the moment when Lance Stevenson had, I believe he hit that 3, and they were up like 70-65 or something like that in that point of the game. That was Eastern Conference Game 6 versus the Celtics for LeBron. He was not on, and he was looking around. He was like, I don't know who to turn to. And then he snapped out of it, and he said, oh, wow, I have Dwayne Wade. Like, this is not the same team I'm on. And Dwayne Wade was right behind him along the way. And the steal from George Hill, and the transition basket he had when he missed it, and Dwayne Wade had the putback slam. Dwayne Wade said in a press conference, it was weird that LeBron even missed it. He just happened to be trailing him. He wasn't trailing him because he thought he'd miss it. He just happened to be trailing him, and that's a shot that LeBron usually converts on. I mean, LeBron was missing layups that we usually would bet our life savings on him making. And it was just one of those games where the importance of Dwayne Wade was highlighted, and more importantly, I got to give the MVP to Eric freaking Spoelstra. The fact of the matter is,
out Coach Vogel.
Yeah, to put Chris Anderson in, along with Chris Bosh, putting that set in, having Chris Anderson grab 12 boards and lock down Roy Hibbert, was key. Throwing, he loves Mario Chalmers, but Eric Spoelstra doesn't play favorites. Took him right out, put Norris Cole in. Norris Cole was on fire from the corner. And then last but not least, this move was made in the regular season, and it has paid off. The fact that he rested Dwayne Wade when all of us were getting on him for it, saying, what are you doing? Dwayne Wade is washed. That knee is never going to be healthy. Eric Spoelstra knew what he was doing. And the fact of the matter is, he was the MVP of last night. To win that game, too, not only does it, like you got Andy, like you mentioned, Brandon, like you mentioned, Game 3 is important. If this series goes 7 games, the Heat know they can win a Game 7 in Indiana, and that's the most important thing. So kudos to LeBron James for stepping it up in the fourth. Kudos to Dwayne Wade for stepping it up the whole entire game. I'd love to see Bosh do better. I think he will. He was shooting at a sensational rate this whole postseason, especially from beyond the arc. He was a 40% three-point shooter, beyond 40% actually. But Eric Spoelstra, he takes home the MVP on that one. I mean, he just coached a phenomenal game, and it was ugly, but he got it done. And I'm pretty sure Pat Riley was, had pat himself on the back a little bit, double entendre there, but he's the one that taught him everything he knows. So kudos to Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra.
So it's like your nephew having a good coaching experience. But I think the 3 big takeaways for me were, Miami leading at half, it was like 41-37 or 41-36. So Miami to be leading at half to me was like, that was kind of the point where I was like, man, it's an Indiana pace game. It's low scoring as can be. Miami's leading, and that's a huge takeaway for me, is winning 87-83 over, arguably the best defensive team in the league, definitely the best defensive team in the East. That's huge for Miami, and it was on the road. Right. My second takeaway is Chris Anderson and those 12 rebounds. Desmond, you just talked about it, off of the bench against, Roy Hibbert, David West, Amini, that big, conglomerate that they have inside of guys who just eat up space, box out, grab rebounds, and Birdman to go in there. He's a little undersized compared to some of those guys. And actually, George Karl was calling him out yesterday, saying Birdman, I coached him before, he doesn't really strive in that hard, tough contact basketball. Well, apparently 12 rebounds says otherwise, George Karl. And then Norris Cole, those big 11 points off the bench, that was huge. Miami needs this stuff. Sometimes LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, I mean, we said it, Dwayne Wade did get it done last night, but sometimes these guys need a cast. Right. It can't always come from Chris Bosh. It has to come from these other guys. 12 rebounds for Birdman, the 11 points for Norris Cole. Miami hanging tough in a defensive game, a Indiana Pacers brand type game. Kudos. I think Miami goes home. I think Miami's going to win the next 2 games.
And Andy, you mentioned something very important. The other guys have to get it done, and not just scoring wise. They have to set up LeBron. We always praise LeBron.
They just have to play. They have to play in a LeBron system. They just have to play.
We always praise LeBron for his ability to create for his teammates, and he did that. Set Norris Cole up for big 3-pointers. But there was a stretch in the game when it really came alive for the Heat, where the tables were turned. Now Norris Cole is setting up give and goes to LeBron. He had 2 of those in a row where he just passed it to Norris Cole, made a beeline to the basket. I don't know what the defender was doing, but it got LeBron 1, a conversion, and 2 foul shots. So that worked for him. And then you had the pick and roll with Dwayne Wade, where Dwayne kicks it back out, and LeBron hits the 3-point shot.
Well, they don't need these guys to score 10 or 15 points. They need them to score 4 to 6 points, knock down the baskets when they get the opportunity late in the game. That's all they need. Brandon, you look like you really had a point you wanted to make.
Well, I mean, first off, you guys have said it, but there was something that Desmond said just so perfectly. You said that Eric Spoelstra doesn't play favorites. So, and then we were kind of talking earlier about, cutting to the basket and LeBron missing layups and this game being sloppy. If LeBron cuts to the hole, follow him to the basket. And then if these players deserve the minutes they're getting, play them.
Follow him to the basket, get in space where you can get a shot. Because LeBron has eyes here. They're all over the place. He's going to find the open man if he needs to find the open man. That's one thing. LeBron is so high IQ when it comes to getting to the basket. He's not looking to score every time he goes to the basket. He's looking to create. So kudos to the Heat. Let's talk about Kevin Love, though. I want to switch this. We're getting here on time. Kevin Love's been a huge topic lately. Obviously, when you talk about a guy who was 3rd in the league as far as per goes, only behind Durant and LeBron James. Kevin Love's not wanting to sign this extension. It seems like his days are numbered in Minnesota. Minnesota's management ownership saying that they don't want to trade Kevin Love. They're not going to trade Kevin Love. I tend to not believe when teams say that, when their brass comes out and says we're not going to trade a guy, because they never know what's going to happen. I mean, if Kevin Love doesn't want to be there, they have to get something out of him. Brandon, we'll go to you first because I'm looking at Desmond's wall right now. How do you feel about the Kevin Love saga, and do you think he'll be traded? If you do think he's going to be traded, where do you think he'll end up? What's a good spot for him? Phoenix?
You know, I know that this is the whole trend right now, and obviously Kevin Love's a huge topic. And this sounds crazy. It sounds like, oh, Brandon, you're just rooting for your home team. Kevin Love needs to come to Phoenix, Arizona. Here's why. Not really just because of our successful season this year, but because the Phoenix Suns have so many pieces we could offer for Kevin Love. And I'm not just talking all those draft picks we have, which, by the way, I think it's like 4 or something.
So tell us what do you think would get a Kevin Love to Phoenix deal done? Like, in your eyes, what are the trade pieces?
Well, it's a little hard because I'm kind of being hypocritical when I say, oh, Kevin Love needs to come to Phoenix, because there's so many players here in Phoenix I don't want to trade, but that's just because I'm a fan favorite. This is just an example. This isn't going to happen because, one, we just kind of recently opted for them and we picked them up. But it would have to be like a package type deal, like let's say the Morris twins. That's just an example. That's never going to happen, not yet anyways. It would have to be like the Morris twins, 2 picks, maybe some cash, and like a pat on the back. It's got to be something involving that. Because if they're losing a forward, don't you think they're going to want a forward? That's just
they're going to want any assets they could possibly get, I would imagine, for Kevin Love. Because if you're trading Kevin Love, you're saying this is us starting over. So I almost feel like in order to get Kevin Love, if you're going to get Kevin Love right now, I feel like you have to be maybe somewhere in the top 8 in the draft and maybe have a player or two who are also, like a coveted piece moving forward, or a young trading chip, or young assets of some sort. So
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was going to say real quick, I just read an article that the Sacramento Kings have put their 8th pick. Ironically that you said that. They put their 8th pick on the trading block. Maybe they're trying to get Kevin Love?
It's possible. Desmond, what would you think that a team would need to do? What team do you think would be a good fit for Kevin Love? And, if you're picking a team, tell me what you think that they could what they would need to give up to acquire Kevin Love. Or maybe you don't think he's going anywhere.
Well, no, he has to be moved at this point. With him wanting to be traded, his camp coming out, he did not deny it. And this is something that has been...
And Ricky Rubio will put him under the bus.
Exactly. Ricky Rubio said we need a different type of leader, which is, telling of anything, mostly just for the simple fact that these guys were reportedly so close. But with that said, by the way, Kevin Love has always wanted to leave Minnesota. People just weren't, researching on this because this was circulating around the time that they were in the Olympics when everyone like LeBron, Kobe, and Kevin Durant are talking about, it was reported that all these guys were having discussions about being in the playoffs, and Kevin Love had nothing to say because he never made it to the playoffs, and that bothered him. So with that said, if I'm a team looking to trade for Kevin Love, you do have to have a high pick. If it's not in this draft, if you don't have the personnel to do it, then it's for future draft classes. Because like you said, if you're giving up Kevin Love, you're looking to start over, and starting over doesn't mean that it takes 1 year. It could take 2 to 3 years. You also have to have veterans you're able to trade on the spot. That will fill the void, but would put a little Band-Aid on, the wound that Kevin Love is going to leave there. So if I'm a team like maybe the Warriors who have picks, and this trade works out. Pieces. Yeah, this trade works out. I did it in the trade machine the other day, and I discussed it with a bunch of my basketball writers that I know on Twitter. Maybe you give up a David Lee, a Harrison Barnes, and you throw some picks and cash considerations in there. That may be enough to entice Minnesota. Or if you're a team like the Kings, who have the personnel and that 8th pick.
Yep.
Exactly. It may work.
They say that the Golden State Warriors are shopping David Lee right now too, is what I was reading this morning. So
that's something that a lot of people may. I mean, a lot of people are saying, why would you want Kevin Love in Golden State? They need defense. The fact of the matter is, yes, you would love your team to be in a really good defensive squad, But that's not going to come. I mean, Kevin Love is going to get you boards. She's going to get you defensive rebounds. But you need a center that's going to be a shot blocker. I always said if you added Kevin Love to Golden State, in that lineup, and you get to keep Andre Iguodala
and Bogut.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Bogut's not your center. Maybe he's not healthy enough. You go out and you get they don't really need a Bogut at center. You just need a tall shot blocker with a wingspan that's ridiculous. You just need a guy that can block shots and get you rebounds. But if Bogut can stay relatively healthy, that can be a really good lineup, considering that Andre Iguodala is still one of the more premier perimeter defenders in the league, and you get to keep that defensive identity as well as transition baskets. So with that said, I think the Warriors do have a really good chance. They're the team on my radar that maybe you throw in a Harrison Barnes, who's a young player with potential. You throw in David Lee, who's a veteran, and you throw in a high pick and some cash consideration. You maybe could get a Kevin Love, and that's something that would work out for Steve Kerr in his first job to have a Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Love, and possibly Andrew Bogut lineup. I mean, that's ridiculous in regards to shooting.
So let me shut this down here at the end. I mean, we're getting long here, but I think two things. The one thing is I heard a Golden State trade. I don't remember where I read it, but it was ludicrous. It was like Klay Thompson, David Lee, and 2 first-rounders, and Draymond Green, actually, too, for Kevin Love.
What are you trading for? Kevin Durant? Like,
what are you, insane? Like, I don't like Kevin Love that much. For me, personally, I feel like in regards to the defense, you either are a good defensive team or you get enough offense that your defense almost doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And I feel like Golden State at this juncture is a team who it's going to be easier for them to add more offense than it is to become defensive, because Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are never going to play defense. I think Bogut's a good defender, obviously, inside. He's a decent anchor, but he's never healthy. Iguodala's a good defender. David Lee, I like David Lee. He's a nice player, but he doesn't play defense. And I think he kind of hinders their offense a little bit at times because
he's a stock guy. I mean, he's a guy that wants to post up. And
you give him the ball and he's going to score. He's not really going to do much else.
Kevin Love can keep that offense going.
I think Kevin Love spreads the floor, which is a nice thing when you're playing with Golden State, because obviously they shoot a lot of threes. Kevin Love's going to get to shoot threes in that offense, and more importantly, he's going to get him second chances in that offense when they shoot threes, because he's a tremendous rebounder. So, with that said, for me personally, I still kind of like the Bulls thing, because I think you can hide Kevin Love in there. You can maybe you're going to replace a guy like Carlos Boozer, who's getting older. People are kind of on his case constantly. And if Derrick Rose does make his return finally here, but you have to be able to keep a guy like Joakim Noah there, and so you'll have pieces like Joakim Noah, Kevin Love, and Derrick Rose, and that team's already a playoff team. So I feel
Jimmy
like
Butler.
And I don't even care who the rest of the guys in your lineup are. If you have Kevin Love, Joakim Noah, and Derrick Rose, you just need 2 guys in there who are going to play a little
basketball. If Derrick Rose is healthy.
If Derrick Rose is healthy, which, I mean, he looked good last year before he got hurt. I mean, it was kind of a freak injury. So, I mean, I guess that's all we have for you guys today. We're going to have a lot more stuff coming in the coming weeks with the draft, and free agency is in July. So, I mean, stay tuned. Head on over to www.sports-kings.com. This is Kings Court. On behalf of Desmond, Brandon, myself, and everybody at the SK Network, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. Check us out. Keep basketball in your mind. We'll see you later.